The closing of Vinard College came as a surprise to many, and it's undoubtable that there were lots of tears, warm hugs, and joyful memories as students walked across the stage at graduation for the last time in November. For many in the Vinard family, it meant a search for new jobs, new schools, and new opportunities. But for some, like Laura and Gary Griffin, it meant returning home to prepare for their life's next steps. Today, we look at their story.
Well, for me, it's sad that the college is closing. And there was a lot of emotion, but in the heart of it all, we knew that God was the one that was determining this. It wasn't a man-made ordeal. This is what God's plan is. And we don't understand it, so we just have to accept it. We were a very close family. There was a lot of talent in that college, be it student talent or faculty or staff talent. And when the college closes, that talent isn't concentrated in one spot anymore. It goes out. And that's what God's doing. He's taking all the talent that was at Vinard and spreading it further throughout basically the world.
Moving on after this year was already in the plans for Gary, a November graduate of Vinard College, and his wife of 26 years, Laura, also an alumni of the college. After the school year, they plan to raise money for a mission trip to Honduras. Due to the school's early closure, their efforts for fundraising will get a boost, as they will now be able to spend more time raising funds visiting churches and other mission support groups during the time Gary would have been in school.
So the next step is just to really make a very concerted effort to get into more churches quicker, and possibly even more churches than we could have before, because now we'll have more time to travel.
Travel is nothing new for the Griffins, as they have been to Europe and Central America doing mission work with a national mission group called World Gospel Missions. They have taken their work to Hungary and most recently to Honduras. They have been able to use their individual skills to make a real difference for the people they interact with on the mission trips.
And I was able to go into an elementary school and help teach for a day, and that was encouraging. And what's amazing to me is that God isn't wasting any part of our life experiences. Gary's been a mechanic for 28 years. And that's what he will be doing in Honduras. He'll be teaching automotive mechanics, and then I'll be teaching English as a second language to the kids. So it's just amazing to see how God has pieced his parts, our mission trips, in with what we will be doing.
The experiences alone have been awesome.
It's amazing because we see God's hand at work, not only in how we can get there funding-wise, but in how he prepares our hearts and how he prepares the hearts of the people that we work with. It's just amazing. And really knowing that we're doing what God wants us to.
Laura and Gary got started in their mission work with two other members of the Vinard College family, Mark and Deanne Dahl. Deanne is a local representative for World Gospel Missions. The Dahls have also been affected by the closing of Vinard, where they were both employed.
Well, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. I know that when this semester started, I think we all kind of had this feeling that things can't keep going on like this for too long. But so when the word came out, it was like, it kind of hit you and you're like, wow, it's really here, really happened. It closed.
You wish that it would be different. We know that God could have once again thrown more money in. He's done it many times, but for some reason he chose not to this time.
It's sad, but at the same time we're looking forward to seeing what God is going to do in the individual lives. Because Vinard is not walls and bricks. Vinard is the people.
But after you get past that initial shock, I think we all realize that God's bigger than a college and God's in control still.
And watching the students get placed in different schools, and just to watch how easy that all happened. Took a lot of work, but how God worked to put them in different places. Nobody's left in a huge lurch because of this. It's just made it seem right.
The Dahls have also gotten the sense that Honduras is the place for Laura and Gary.
And it was just fun to watch God open them up and to watch the way that they were willing to try anything. Gary even drove in Honduras, and that
And survived.
survived. Crazy.
Yeah.
So they tried their Spanish. They weren't afraid to try to use it, and just everything. They just fit. I watched them in Honduras, and I remember thinking the first time we were there, I didn't get this in Hungary, but while we were in Honduras, it's like they fit. Like they'd always been there, although it was their first time there. People just accepted them, and they accepted people and the culture so well.
And Gary and Laura's heart is with the people, and they love the people, and that's their desire to interact with them and to help them any way they can. So that comes out very clearly through what they do and the way they live.
It's the place that we call home.
Mm-hmm.
God has made it very evident that that is our home. When we moved from Ohio, Oskaloosa was home, and it still is. But in that same respect, Honduras is home. Our hearts are there. We have friends that are there. We love the people, and it's a love that God's put in our hearts for those people. And when they try to teach you how to roll your R's, they laugh hysterically, and it's just fun. And I really enjoyed just the people.
The family-like atmosphere that characterized Vennard College has carried through in the connections between the Griffins and other former students.
Laura and Gary both looked after me like their son, so it was really nice to get to know them and get to be a part of their lives for that part.
Laura has always been there for me to talk, to give me a hug if I need it. Gary has always been there to help out in any way that he can, and they have just meant the world to me.
Our house is always open to them. We've hugged them, we've cared for them, we've laughed with them, we've cried with them.
Their first trip to Honduras gave them the confidence they needed to fit in with the culture and be effective with their mission work. Now they are ready to fulfill what they deem to be God's calling.
And God told me, He said, don't ask Gary any questions. Don't say, do you think this is where we're supposed to live? Don't say anything. Just relax and let God work on Gary's heart. And we both worked throughout the entire week, and finally on Sunday, before we got to come home from our journey, we got to talk alone together, and we just knew. We knew that Honduras was where we were supposed to be. It's a natural fit for us. It's home.
And we didn't go to Honduras because we felt called to missions. We weren't even going to go to start with. And then there was a friend of ours come up and said, hey, are you going on the Honduras trip? And I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, my organization has this money, and if you're going, we want to give this money to you. And that money was enough to pay my way. And so really that was the reason.
That's why we went to
That's
Honduras
really why we
first
went
Yeah.
on the first trip, was because we thought, how often do you get somebody that just comes up out of the blue and says, here's a check to pay for your trip? It's just amazing to see how God used that, and then after we got there, and then fulfilled that call in our hearts.
This leading makes them feel driven to be successful in returning to Honduras. They must raise $23,000 in order to leave on their trip in November, which also includes their training expenses. In addition to that, they must find a way to raise $5,000 a month to cover their living expenses during their 2-year mission trip. As they raise funds for their journey, they reflect on some valuable wisdom.
When we first started our journey, a mentor of ours said, whatever door God opens, you walk through it. Don't push the door open, don't force the door open. Just walk through the doors as God opens them, and you'll never go wrong.